My people, are we live or are we live? My people, how you doing? All right, let's turn the music down. My people, welcome back. Welcome back to You and I Talk Show. Oh, wait. It's like I have a minor cold today. I got overly excited. Let's turn the music down. Let's turn the cell phones off and let's get the show popping. My people, how you doing? How you doing? Welcome back. Welcome back to your favorite You and I Talk Show. My people, your favorite host, Ausares, Louise Uwacu in the building. Tell me if you're listening, where you tuned in from. We're broadcasting live from Vancouver, my people. And today we have a guest, a great man that you have already met on You and I Talk Show, Dr. Chernoh Alpha Mba right now, and he's gonna briefly talk to us about what he's been up to. He's been up to great things, going back to Africa, going back to Zimbabwe. So, he's gonna briefly talk to us about it. And then since he is busy at another conference, he will come back another time to expand on what on his work and what they're doing in Zimbabwe, and to motivate most of us, some of us out here in Canada, USA, Europe, the diaspora, the Africans, to do something great and to go back to Africa and be of great use to our African countries, African nations, Pan-Africans. Doesn't matter which country you're from, because I don't even think he's from Zimbabwe, you know what I mean? All right, my people, share the show, like, subscribe. Welcome to the show. Let's get the show started. Thank you. Today, April 5th, 2024. Welcome, my people. All right, my people. So we're gonna bring in Mr. Chernoh Alpha Mba right away. Dr. Chernoh Alpha Mba, thank you. Thank you for being with us. We know you're busy. What are you up to? What have you been up to, please? And when are you going to come back to tell us about the great work that you have been doing?
Yes, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me. I'm one of your greatest fans, as you already know. We enjoy the You and I Talk Show, very creative, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. As you know, you already know, this is my second time now coming here, and I look forward to more, time and space to be able to come here and share the work that we do. For the last a couple of months, I think towards the end of this year, I made a trip to Africa, as you've already alluded to. I was in Zimbabwe. I, traveled around the country and came back. We've been trying to reorganize the Africanist Press. For the last 5 years, we've been working on corruption in Sierra Leone, reporting on grand corruption, and now we're developing what we call Tracing an Illicit Financial Flows Project, which is a transnational investigation that looks at the movement of money and corruption involving international banks, international agencies, foreign governments, and the African political elites, the corrupt elite in West Africa, and how they move money to various tax havens and things like that. So it's an exciting time. My hands have been full with it. But at the same time, I've been sitting here and watching the work that you do. Your work is an inspiration to some of the new ways we're thinking about how to move. So thank you for also doing the things that you do. On this end, we salute your work too as well.
Thank you very much. So why Zimbabwe? If you can tell us shortly, like why Zimbabwe, and what did you learn from it, and what is it? What is the future? What's next?
Yeah, so apart from being a journalist, I'm also a historian. I finished my PhD or completed my PhD last year at Northwestern. And for the last, I think, 20 years now, Sierra Leone, the country that I come from, hasn't got someone that completed a PhD in history, I think, for 20 years. So, which means that apart from the current fading generation of historians, I am so far, as far as I know, the only Sierra Leonean or national of Sierra Leone that is currently holding a PhD in history. So my goal was to return home and help to build the history department in my country. But my work on corruption, exposing corruption, writing about injustices and the repression back there has made it impossible for me to be in the country right now. Both the politicians, professional organizations that include groups of lawyers, journalists, and other the politicians on the ground, including academics, have become somehow opposed to my presence in the country. So as I speak right now, I'm currently on a campaign to have the right to return to my country and be able to work there free from the ongoing harassment and death threats and all kinds of abuse that I'm receiving as a consequence of my commitment to fight against graft, to fight against human rights, and to fight dictatorship. So in between now and then, I've been looking forward to lending my skills to other parts of Africa that need my skills. And I have a couple of friends and activists who I worked with in the past who are in Zimbabwe who invited me to go there. I was in Zimbabwe on the invitation of the Midland State University in Gweru. I visited Zimbabwe, met with the academics in the university, met with journalists, met with activists. I went across the country from Harare to Matabeleland to Gweru to look at the whole country. You know, Zimbabwe is an interesting place, as you already know. They've been under sanctions for economic sanctions for a long time now, and the country seems to be cut off, and which is why when I told people I was going there, they were wondering why. But I think it's one of the places where people with skills in the diaspora, Africans, can extend solidarity and support to the struggles of the people there on the ground. So I am currently in conversation with academics and journalists in Zimbabwe to see how we will help bring to light the stories of the people of Zimbabwe, their ongoing struggles, how we can develop transnational relationships that will help to build the capacity of people in Zimbabwe, support them the best way we can through intellectual resources, through maybe material resources, communal resources, collectivizing our resources as Africans across the world to give not charity, but solidarity in ways that will change, that will contribute to meaningful economic and social development in the country. So I'm looking forward to getting African intellectuals, experts from here who will collaborate with universities out there, and at the same time to see where best my skills can be used, both in the media and in the academy in Zimbabwe, as the case is right now. So I had a good experience. I went there, was received by activists that I knew in the past, by journalists. I visited farms. I looked at the efforts of people and what they are doing to deal with the daily challenges living under a country or in a country that has been under tremendous pressure, economic pressure. Business is closing down, but people are still trying to make do with what they have. So it was a humbling experience and a learning experience as well.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. So, since we know you don't have enough time, what is it that you would need from the diaspora? Like, what is your message to the diaspora? What is it that you would need from the diaspora as support? And what do you think that Africa needs or Zimbabwe needs as support, you know?
Yeah, I think the country, in the case of Zimbabwe, they are in isolation. We have a lot of good people out there, academics who are doing tremendously well, and they are not adequately paid. You can see that, even though if they don't say it to you, you can see that they need resources, both material and human resources, the capacity. It's a country that's known for its higher levels of literacy. I think that one key way of breaking the isolation is by building transnational networks of academics that will support the movement of intellectual resources from, say for instance in Canada or the United States or in Europe into Zimbabwe and moving intellectuals back and forth. That will allow for a number of things, collaboration, and also a better understanding of the situation on the ground that will help people who are independent of the politics of the country to be able to collaborate in meaningful ways that will impact development. So I'm looking forward to enlisting African academics who will be sympathetic to that cause, to donate their skills, donate their time, and other kinds of resources that will be meaningful and useful on the ground in Zimbabwe. So I'm hoping that in the near future, we will be able to also hold conferences on Zimbabwe that will allow Zimbabwean academics and journalists and other experts to attend those independent gatherings and help to share the situation that they live in and appeal for the kind of support that they need. I think they will be in a better position to serve as spokespeople of their own conditions and highlighting the needs on the ground. So we are trying to set up what I call a Zimbabwe Solidarity Committee that will involve academics and activists and other people. I'm currently working with a mentor and a friend of mine from the University of Louisville, Professor Ann Wallis, who is also the director of publication for the Africanist Press, responsible of the editing work that we're doing, serving on the editorial committee of the press. So she has also expressed willingness to be to help with the situation. So we are also we've received interest from other scholars in other universities who are interested in donating their time and skills. And the committee we are building will involve academics from the Midland State University and some of us here, and then we can develop a plan of action and a memorandum of understanding that will guide what we are going to do in the next couple of years in breaking the isolation of Zimbabwean academics and journalists, so that they will have the kind of transnational networks that will help to highlight the conditions in Zimbabwe and identify areas that people can intervene in solving everyday problems and challenges that communities are facing.
That's really, really great work. I've also been following your podcast, the Africanist Press podcast service, which I call the Pan-Africanist. And you have really been doing great work. And also, I've even followed some of the stories while you were in Zimbabwe, some of the conversations that you had with some people in Zimbabwe, right? And it's
Yes.
clear that the sanctions have been there for so long. Even if they get cancelled yesterday or today, which they have tried in which they have eased some of them, it's clear that it's going to take a while before before things really get into back into place or Zimbabwe prospers properly, because they've been sabotaged for a long time. So what do you think would be the priority moving forward?
Yes, I think key is, in order for us to be able to address some of the social and economic needs of communities on the ground, we need to first and foremost, in my imagination, understand the challenges that people are faced with, their daily struggles. So what we try to highlight, because for the most part, the international propaganda has been that the sanctions are targeted against the politicians or members of the ruling class. So what I try to show is that the impact, the burden of the sanctions is actually on the regular citizens, the ordinary man and woman, young people, men and women, kids, children, and especially women who are struggling to get by. So we've been trying to highlight those stories, how the sanctions have impacted professional groups like journalists, like writers, artists, women, women's organizations, women's cooperatives. So in doing so, what we are trying to show is that people can work with independent communities, independent of the state, and help to address these problems. You are right in saying that even if the sanctions are removed today because of the length of time that the country has been isolated and that people have gone through these economic difficulties, it's going to take a number of years for them to recover and catch up with the rest of the world. But what we're dealing with in Zimbabwe epitomizes the general crisis of underdevelopment that Africa is faced with, the hyper exploitation of resources, the punishment of communities that are not compliant to the capitalist mode of extraction, where governments in Africa are basically functioning as proxies for multinational corporations, for foreign governments. We're dealing with, for example, the similar situations in Sierra Leone. It is not under sanctions, but the resources are not benefiting the regular citizens of the country. I think you also have been dealing with the same questions. When I look at your show and listen to the conversation on the You and I show, you're dealing with the same contradictions on a different scale and a different ways that it manifests itself. So I think what the Zimbabwe situation provides people like myself is an opportunity to be able to lend and contribute our skills in ways that we will not be restricted in doing community work as we are experiencing in our own home countries, where even if we want to contribute for free, the ways the situation are, politicians are so afraid that they can't even accept that. So, which is why I think this kind of conversation about what the diaspora can do for the homeland is very important, because we have to also differentiate the kind of diaspora communities, the kind of diaspora experts, and the kind of diaspora returnees that we've been having recent times. People are welcome if they want to participate in the culture of corruption, exploitation, and oppression. Those individuals, regardless of your skills and your expertise, you are unwelcome back home if you are not willing to be part of the organized way of looting the country. If you don't want to participate in the national enterprise of looting the national treasury, you will be hounded out, regardless of what kind of qualifications or skills you have. So, which is why I think the situation in Zimbabwe, or going to Zimbabwe, will provide an opportunity for, to give back in ways where Sierra Leone has prevented me from doing so for the time being.
That's really great. So moving forward, isn't this like a huge loss for Africa and for our countries when people are prevented from contributing, when they have so much to contribute? Like, you have so much to contribute. People can read your bio. We've shared the link over here. People can see everything that you're contributing. And this is the other thing that is so great about America, apart from its foreign policy, which also interferes with African issues sometimes. But the thing that is so great about America and about living in America and Canada is that the society actually goes out there in Africa fishing for people like you and I, so that they can come and enrich their countries. They're willing to welcome anyone who will contribute to their country, and they don't care. As long as you're contributing to their country, you're going to advance them. They love it. While when you try to contribute to your own country back home in Africa, because of the politics, just because you may disagree, which is your right, which actually enriches the people in power when you disagree, because they get fresh ideas. But no, you get persecuted for it. You get exiled, you get killed, you get jailed. You know, like, isn't that such a huge loss? Like, how does Africa recover from that?
It's a paradox, and we've been dealing with that crisis and contradiction of the neo-colonial environment for years. On the eve of the independence struggle, African intellectuals, historians, cultural producers were at the forefront in the battle against colonialism. And once indigenous African politicians inherited the colonial state, they turned against their own people, the very intellectuals who were their allies. So that act of repression has continued up to today. Even though in the case of, I have written out public statements in which I have offered that I have donated my PhD to the people of Sierra Leone. I'm willing to go back home to the University of Sierra Leone to teach for free. Even the university cannot respond to that. The historians in the country and outside of the country who know that they are a fading generation cannot even stand in solidarity to the that kind of offer. They could not even see that there's a need for that. In fact, they ally with the state to kick you out. So the only alliances and solidarity you get is people outside here who find value in the things that you do, who think that your life is worth protecting, are the ones that offer you a sanctuary and a place to work and the ability to be able to live in peace, to protect your right to free expression. That's what it's all about. So it's a real paradox, and it's unfortunate, it's sad. We cannot even quantify the loss that.
So right now you're
that
working at the university, right? And you're not working for them for free, right? They're paying you, right? So if you were
yes,
going to go to Sierra Leone, you should even get paid. Should get paid so much money, right?
yes. If I were to go to Sierra Leone, they have accepted people who return from here, but who have become liabilities to the national treasury. I have offered my education and my service and my skills for free to the country. Instead they are trying to accuse me of treason, of being part of the violence that is happening. They stage violence in the country with the ambition to implicate me with it. So even if I'm traveling to West Africa now, they will even connive with neighboring governments to accuse me of all kinds of things. So they will try to assassinate you or try to kill you. So that's what I got in response. You're right. Here I work and I get paid for doing the work that I'm doing. And I've offered my education and my service that has come not at the expense of the Sierra Leonean state. The Sierra Leonean government, my education is not the result of any support from the Sierra Leonean government. But I have offered my degree and my service to Sierra Leone. If you check that website, I wrote it out publicly saying that I'm willing to go back home and teach in the university and train a future generation of historians and other public of a future generation of scholars who will understand the importance of scholarship in nation building. And even when I did that, there's been no response. What I get is ongoing threats and harassment, death threats and harassment. So it is unfortunate. It's a paradox that we have to deal with. The loss, and my case would be just one example. It's all over Africa. We have a situation where you are only welcome if you want to be part of the enterprise of looting the resources that are meant to provide social services and better the lives of our people. If you are willing to be part of the project of stealing, of looting the meager resources that we have, the national treasury, then you are welcome. If you are opposed to that kind of arrangement, then you are banished, you are hounded, you become persona non grata. So that is the situation. But that said, my commitment to Sierra Leone remains the same. My commitment to Africa remains the same. I am still willing to provide my service and my skills to the upliftment of my people and my community wherever and whenever I am able to do so.
Wow, thank you very much. And thank you for being brave. And then next time when you come here, you can actually come with some of the Zimbabwe people who can also speak and tell us when we do our follow-up show. Since I know that you have to go. So, is there something that you haven't mentioned today that you would like to mention? And then otherwise, we will let you go and then tell people where you're going if it's not a top secret meeting to topple the dictatorship back home.
No, I am currently engaged in I'm currently in a meeting that is talking about democracy in South Africa. But that is what I've been uh, attending and participating in that conversation for the last 2 days, which will end tomorrow. So I'm sorry that I'm rushing to go there, but I look forward to coming here. And thank you very much for the work that you do. We need more people like you, more platforms like yourself. We've been crowded out in other media spaces, so we appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to our people, speak to our communities through platforms like you and I. I will ask whosoever that's listening to support such independent efforts. We need independent media like you and I to be able to bring the voices of African people, independent voices, to the forefront of our communities. So I salute you and thank you very much. I look forward to the next engagement.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Have a great weekend. Have a great day. And thank you for finding a short time. Looking forward to the next one when you come back.
Thank you.
All right, my people, short and sweet. Chernoh Dr. Chernoh Alpha Mba from the Africanist Press, my people. Go check out the Africanist Press. They also have a podcast that you can find everywhere where they have podcasts, especially on Spotify. So you can check out their episode on Spotify, and whoa, it's just like the University of Life school history Africa. It's amazing the kind of wealth in knowledge that you will find over there. So my people, I encourage you to go check it out. All right, so thank you everyone